What? Amen, yeah. I want to call to order the Columbia County Board of Commissioners millage rate public hearing. Let the record show we have 4 of 5 commissioners. I don't know about presentations. I think we go straight to new business. And Mr. Johnson, you going to talk us through some of this, or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just briefly, I'll just hit some of the highlights, and then I'll turn it over to Ms. Reese, and if you have any questions, certainly we will answer those. This is our second public hearing that's required for our millage rate. Just want to make it known once again that we are not asking to increase the millage rate itself. This is a result of following the law that says if the digest grows at all, we have to advertise it as a tax increase. We are again, have one of the lowest millage rates. I believe it's the second lowest millage rate in the state, and we continue to do well with that. It is our recommendation to leave the millage rate where it is. It will generate some additional funding that you have in front of you, and we obviously in a growing county like ours have good use for those funds. So we can talk about that afterwards. I don't think that that's part of the conversation as far as where we are on the millage rate, but I'll turn it over to Ms. Reese if you want to hit a couple of the highlights, Ms. Reese, and then we'll answer any questions that the board has or the public has.
The next part of your packet are the PT 32.1 forms that the Tax Commissioner's Office prepares. We are only required to hold public hearings for the maintenance and operations piece, but we have included the bond and fire for your information as well. And you can see on the first one, which is the county M&O, what Mr. Johnson is talking about is the reassessment of the existing real property that went up $136.5 million, and that's why we're holding this hearing. The value of the rollback rate would be 5.859, which is 0.14 mills, and we are recommending that we maintain the current millage rate. The page after those 3 forms is the notice that the tax commissioner put in the newspaper, which shows the current year's property tax digest and then a 5-year history. You can see what this year's digest will mean in taxes levied, which is 5.91% over last year. Basically, it just means that based on the same millage rate, we will collect 5.91% more in tax revenues than we did in 2019.
That equals how many dollars?
Which part?
5.91.
5.91%.
It's the increase is 1.9 million, basically, $1,963,000. That's the increase in revenues.
5.99. Where's the 5.91?
On the notice,
Oh, okay.
Yep, 5.99.
oh, 5.999 is the millage rate. 5.91 is the percentage increase over last year's digest.
Right.
Right.
The numbers are similar.
Right, now if we leave the millage rate the same, I was just trying to understand the revenue.
If we leave the millage rate at the 5.999 mills,
An
we
extra
will,
$1.9 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
over last year. Then the next page is a comparison of what we budgeted. We budgeted based on a 3% growth, and the actual growth was the 5.9% growth. We are recommending a change in the bond millage rate and the fire millage rate. Based on our debt service payments, we do not need quite as much millage for the bond. It's currently at 0.89 mills. We only need 0.84 mills, which is a reduction of 0.05 mills. We are recommending that we move that piece of the millage to the fire to help with their operations so that we don't need to use quite as much insurance premium and tax funds.
How much will the millage rate fund of their budget now? Excuse me, let me be more specific. The fire department, if we move that part of the millage rate from bond to fire, is it self-sustaining on the millage rate yet?
No,
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're still going to need about $1.5 million
Right.
from IPTF.
We've had the discussion before, but we have had a policy throughout my term where if we had excess funds, we would always work on debt service. But we're actually at a point where we're almost maximized on how much extra we can allot to debt service, are we not? I mean, we can't pay off our bonds early.
So we're paying off our other debt with sales tax money. We have SPOS money that's set aside with that. This is just for the GO bond that we issued, I guess it's been a couple of years ago now that we levied a mill for. It has a call date, so there's not an advance payment on this. We're paying it to the as quick as we can. And again, remember, we're a AAA credit. We borrowed money for extremely low interest. So we're in really good shape there. But to answer the question, no, we can't accelerate it any faster. We are accelerating debt payments on other debt
Where we can.
We have the very little bit of debt we have in the county. We're accelerating the debt on that side.
I just wanted that on the record. I just wanted everyone, for people to understand, if the public or whoever might be listening,
Bob.
that we are trying to pay down the debt as fast as we can, any debt that we have, but there's a limit on how much we can do. It's not that we're just taking the money and running.
And legally, in these debt service funds, we cannot hold excess funds in a debt service fund, which is why staff is recommending moving that millage rate. Because
Right.
we're not supposed to hold funds.
All the
Three men in a truck.
We're actually ahead. We're in phase what, Chief? We're in phase 4 now out of 7 phases total? How many phases total? 7 phases. We're in phase 4. We didn't think we'd be in phase 4 this quick. We're continuing to build that up. Mr. Kennedy, anything you want to add on that? We're ahead of schedule, though.
conversation, a couple of new locations for apartments.
Right.
Still in search of those, but we don't have any.
We've narrowed it down. We've made offers on more than one piece of property, and they've not been able to go through. I've been extremely surprised that people don't want a fire station near their house. But a lot of people don't. They think they're gonna hear sirens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and don't wanna sell property that's close to their home because they don't want a fire station there. Having a fire station right next door is probably a really good thing to have. But we're continuing to look. We have some other prospects that we're looking at. We're continuing to look. The problem is as you know, we're kind of stuck to a geographic area. We need to be within a certain strategic 5-mile area, so it kind of pinpoints where we need to buy land. We have that out. Yes, sir. And we have the funding available to do it. We're ready to move out on it.
The other is, have dropped the millage rate 4 or 5 years.
Yes,
dropped
this
it
is
4
the
times.
first time in 5 years that we've had a public hearing.
Right, and I'm still in favor of dropping it, but what has made me back off is COVID. It's not sure what's gonna happen with.
Right. And we've made some contingencies there. I'm concerned about the digest going forward. We always put because we're a growing county, so we always budget based on a growth in the digest. And if we reduce the millage rate back and then put that growth in the digest there, and then we don't hit that number, then we're gonna be stuck with the services we have. That's tough in a growing county.
Into this, but I will.
Oh, go ahead.
Please for it.
I personally like to see us, can't do it if we can cut back the millage rate, but I would like to see a plan in place, and we've talked about it, and talked to her about a plan for repaving all of our neighborhoods. There's a lot of neighborhoods that hadn't had a fresh coat of asphalt on it in years and years and years and years. Sooner or later, we're going to have to get that place, have it out there, and know we're gonna do a certain amount of miles or a certain whatever every year. how we can in place and moving forward on it.
I agree with Commissioner Richardson. I think that, we've all had these discussions over the years as we grow. I know traditionally we've not used general fund money or property taxes to do a lot of road maintenance renovation other than patch jobs, but we got a lot more road than we have in the past, and we're growing and continuing to grow so fast. I think that it's probably about time for a policy change where we do start considering that as an option
And it may be like we're doing with the fire department. It may be that we free up funding somewhere else with general fund money and then use the other money that you have that became available that we were dependent on for general fund needs. If we can cover our general fund with these needs, we'll just spend it from the other pot. I just don't, however you guys want to do it, certainly we can do that, but we don't necessarily have to.
No, I was not encouraging us to go against staff recommendation of reallocating to the fire. But as funds of any sort come in that we do have flexibility with, we can move around. I think that is something we need to keep in mind and look at down the road, certainly.
We understand that strategy and we'll be moving that direction with these additional funds.
I know District 2 is the oldest district, most developed district, and I'm getting far more comments about the roads need work than I ever have. It's much greater frequency of requests and complaints in the last year and a half than ever in my 12 years.
Well, a couple of, and we made changes to address this, but a couple of neighborhoods, not so distant past, they weren't built to hold up.
Right.
We've had to
yeah.
go in now, and I appreciate it. Neighborhood in my district is falling totally to pieces. Brand new neighborhood, and $1 million going in to replace it.
Right.
So, no, when we're spending money on these, have to, we're not addressing some that, yeah, they're okay. They are, but time goes by, they're not going to. Number that Faulkner came up with, huge number to commit to go through this, so.
20 million a year, wasn't that close? Or 20 million every year, right?
And just in comparison, 20 million a year is exactly what we spend on general government to run the entire government of Columbia County.
Yeah.
Not the judicial piece, but if you look at your breakdown,
Right.
Right.
20 million of our money goes to the general government for the
Administration.
entire county. So that's a big number.
I think what I'm hearing is that we'd like to see some type of plan.
Okay, yep, we can certainly work on that. I mean, obviously,
That doesn't have to be tied into this. We may be on a tangent here, but
right. No, well, I think it does tie back into this in that we didn't necessarily move forward with a plan if we're not going to have the funding for it, right? But if we have additional funding and we understand that it's the will of the commission to leave the millage rate the way it is and allowing the growth in the digest to keep up with the growth in the county to be able to pay for some of the needs we have, we can certainly allocate those funds accordingly.
And buy less trucks. Less equipment.
Right.
Not fire trucks.
Not fire trucks,
Not fire truck.
vehicles. We invest in law
You
enforcement.
know, it's an interesting discussion, though.
And
because
fire.
You can draw a lot of parallels between what we've done with the fire department and how we are talking about doing road maintenance. Because if you let either sit, and that's where we were with the fire department, it was, no offense, guys, but it was inadequate for the mission that we were giving them. And it always costs a heck of a lot more to catch up than it does to come up with a plan where you're routinely allocating. So there are a lot of parallels there. And even though we it is a 7-phase plan, as the county continues to grow, so does our mission. So the real answer is we're never going to get to the end point. The end point continues down the road in both of those categories.
But another tangent, Chief, how about at the next committee meeting, which is a month from now, Give us an update on the plan. I know there are 10 stages. How about just give us an update on that at the next committee meeting? Where we've come, where we're going, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I can weigh in. I'm in favor of such a plan. I mean, the roads are one of the things that people, as perceptually see as their due because of the taxes that they pay. And we're a growing county. We've got 800 miles of roads. I'm totally in favor of a plan. And we've been presented with a blessing of choices, projected growth of 3%, which is very conservative when our actual growth has been over 5.5%. I think it's a conservative approach. Or
Any other comments? Bob?
You waited around just for this.
I thought it was a good discussion. Add to your road project, that there are several developments where, rural developments where the roads are actually not probably to specifications in terms of
It's not just rural.
width. I know, but some near my house, but anyway, so not only the paving, but, the widening, without having to acquire new property, just making it, engineering it to the normal 2-lane highway without taking out people's mailboxes or having to flap your windows in from your trucks in order to be able to pass each way. But add also sidewalks. There are many communities where there's an elementary school near me where you can't walk to school because there's no sidewalk on the side of the road. So you could add that into your plan for, very useful too.
Thank you.
It's amazing, Bob, we get a lot of these developers in here, and we started requiring sidewalks, and they tell us how nobody uses the sidewalks. It's amazing when they're there, people tend to use them, isn't it?
Any other comments? I have a motion to adjourn.
motion we adjourn, sir.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. We are adjourned.